This is the European hippopotamus, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why they've gone extinct, why you will never see them again, and how climate shifts, shrinking habitats, and persistent human pressure sealed their fate. You'll see how a multi-ton river giant lost its territory step by step, how it ended up sharing land with mammoths during the Ice Age, and how the final populations collapsed. Welcome back to Impractical Existence, where we bring to your understanding the impractical existence of creatures and why they've gone extinct. Wait, let's rewind 2 million years. Around 2.1 million years ago, a giant species called Hippopotamus antiquus entered Europe through the Mediterranean. Fossils from Italy and Greece show it settling comfortably into warm river valleys. This animal, it weighed between 3 and 4.5 tons, double the weight of a modern hippo. It has a long and narrow skull, and its eyes sat high. Its feet were short and built for pushing along riverbeds. This hippo was deeply committed to water, and you can guess where this is going. The land was inconvenience for this creature. Hippopotamus amphibius. The same species still alive in Africa today. The earliest European record of Hippopotamus amphibius comes from central Italy roughly 500,000 years ago, and for a while, the two species actually overlapped, sharing Mediterranean rivers, the giant aquatic purist and the smaller, more flexible generalist living side by side. And in the end, the giant didn't make it, mostly because they aren't flexibility enough. Hippopotamus antiquus was heavily tied to stable, permanent water systems. So when glacial periods reduced aquatic productivity and froze waterways, it had nowhere to adjust. Whereas Hippopotamus amphibius could graze more broadly on temperate grasses and handle ecological shifts a little better. Not perfectly, just better. By about 380,000 years ago, the giant European hippo was gone. Phase 1 complete. Now here's where things get strange. For decades, scientists believed hippos vanished from Central Europe after the last warm interglacial about 115,000 years ago, which sounded reasonable because the last ice age intensified, woolly mammoths spread, woolly rhinos roamed frozen plains, and hippos sharing a landscape with them felt completely out of place. Then new radiocarbon dating and ancient DNA from the Upper Rhine region in Germany rewrote that entire timeline, showing that hippos survived there until about 31,000 years ago. So yes, populations of Hippopotamus amphibius were living in Central Europe during the last ice age, and in some layers, their remains sit right alongside woolly mammoths. They managed it through microclimates, with the Rhine Valley likely maintaining pockets of open water during milder interstadial periods. But these were fragmented refuges, and the hippos there were genetically isolated with extremely low genome-wide diversity. A clear sign of a small, vulnerable population with very little room for error. They weren't thriving. While climate pressure kept tightening, humans were also in the picture. Neanderthals had been present across Europe for hundreds of thousands of years, and sites in Spain show systematic exploitation of large animals, including hippos, with cut marks confirming deliberate butchery, meaning hippos were literally humans' diet. A small, fragmented population under repeated cold stress doesn't need massive hunting pressure to collapse. It just needs steady pressure over time. By roughly 30,000 to 20,000 years ago, mainland European hippos disappeared as the last glacial maximum approached. Conditions worsened, refugia shrank, and the remaining population simply ran out of space and stability. But that wasn't the end everywhere. On Mediterranean islands, hippos followed a different path, as isolation triggered insular dwarfism, and with limited resources and no large predators, they gradually shrank over generations. On Cyprus, the species Hippopotamus minor weighed around 130 kilograms, smaller than a large pig, essentially a former megafaunal giant reduced to a compact island browser. For thousands of years, it survived quietly, until humans arrived around 14,000 years ago. At Akrotiri Etokrimnos in Cyprus, archaeologists uncovered over 200,000 hippo bones, representing more than 500 individuals, associated with human artifacts and hearths. and models show that even a human population in the low thousands could drive such an isolated species extinct in under a millennium. These dwarf hippos had evolved without major predators and were behaviorally naive, while humans were efficient, organized, and persistent, which is a combination that rarely ends well for isolated megafauna. Climate clearly shaped the mainland declines, but on islands, the timing of human arrival lines up tightly with extinction. So what actually killed the European hippos? It wasn't one dramatic event or a single villain, but a sequence. First, extreme aquatic specialization eliminated Hippopotamus antiquus as glacial cycles intensified. Then, repeated climatic fragmentation pushed Hippopotamus amphibius into small, genetically fragile refuges. And finally, sustained human predation, first by Neanderthals, later by Homo sapiens, finished populations that were already stretched to their limits. It was a slow squeeze from both sides. The surprising part isn't that hippos eventually disappeared. It's that a tropical semi-aquatic animal managed to persist through multiple ice age oscillations in Europe and even share landscapes with mammoths. Extinction here wasn't explosive, it was gradual.